Hello, I'm John Bach.
And I'm Miranda Kahn. Coming up this hour on Newsmax Now, new claims about ties to last night's shooting in Texas and international terrorism. What the FBI now says about that connection.
And we have more hats in the ring today. Newsmax Prime host J.D. Hayworth joins us to talk about Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina, and what's going to be their biggest contribution to the 2016 race. Also, he'll talk about why we cannot count out Mike Huckabee. And speaking of 2016, you thought Bernie Sanders' campaign was a long shot. Wait until you see how much cash he pulled in during his first official day as a presidential candidate.
And it's Monday, May 4th, time for another round of Newsmax Now, so buckle up.
Buckle up. Thanks a lot, Miranda. Let's go ahead and get started.
All right, topping our news at this hour, we begin where U.S. officials are now looking for. There we go. Let's start this over again. We start this hour with new information just released from the FBI about that shooting in Garland, Texas. U.S. officials are now looking into a possible link between terrorist groups and gunmen who attacked an event in Texas.
We think their strategy was to get to the event center, into the event center, and they were not able to get past that outer perimeter that we had set up, which was part of that security.
Police shot and killed the two men before they could enter the free speech competition. One of the suspects is reportedly named Elton Simpson. The second, according to the Washington Post, Nadir Sufi, Simpson's roommate. Last night's event featured a contest for drawing cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. One security guard was wounded during that attack.
Right, of course, the other part of the story is a search today in the Arizona home of at least one of those two men shot at that free speech event. Several reports say this search taking place at the apartment of the suspect named Elton Simpson. This also may, of course, be the home of the second suspect, too, since we're learning now that they were roommates. Simpson had previously been the target of a terror investigation. Investigators are looking into reports also which may have shown he had a link to terrorism in the past. He may have also sent out a message about the attack before it happened via social media. Now we turn our attention to the GOP 2016 presidential primary. Dr. Ben Carson is the latest person to enter this race during his campaign kickoff today. He talked about tackling the nation's ballooning welfare programs.
I have no desire to get rid of safety nets for people who need them. I have a strong desire to get rid of programs that create dependency in able-bodied people.
Well, Dr. Carson has never run for public office, but he says he has plenty of professional leadership and life experience to make up for it. Also, Carly Fiorina, she made her presidential announcement earlier today as well. Carly Fiorina may end up being the only female Republican to run on that side of the aisle. She made her announcement right after she made her announcement, she went after Hillary Clinton, saying she's not trustworthy.
She wasn't transparent about Benghazi. In fact, just the opposite. She peddled a fiction about it for a month. She hasn't been transparent about her server and her emails.
Well, Fiorina says she is the best person for the job because she understands how bureaucracies work. Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee also expected to make his presidential announcement tomorrow.
Things are slowly returning back to normal in Baltimore, and officials agree they're ready for peace.
It's been a really rough week, but let's get back to normal in the city and get people back to work and back to school and get people coming back into the city to visit the shops that were really devastated this week.
Yesterday, Maryland's Governor Larry Hogan visited a Catholic church in the neighborhood where Freddie Gray used to live. Gray died while in police custody last month. New York City police officer Brian Moore, who was shot in the head over the weekend, has died, according to the Daily News. The suspected shooter, Demetrius Blackwell, was arraigned yesterday on attempted murder charges in a Queens criminal courtroom. Blackwell allegedly opened fire after being approached by Officer Brian Moore and his partner on Saturday evening.
In Wisconsin, 4 people are dead and 1 person is injured after what appears to be some sort of random shooting on a bridge there. Police say it happened around 7:30 last night. Local reports say the gunman shot and killed 3 people before he then turned the gun on himself. One victim is still alive and is now in critical condition. Also, a sheriff from Georgia is now accused of shooting a woman in the stomach. Clayton County Sheriff Victor Hill is not yet facing any charges. He was reportedly claiming that the shooting was an accident. The victim is in critical condition. And despite the dangers of people trying to cross the Mediterranean Ocean, more continue to try to make that trip from Africa to Europe.
Yeah, crews managed to rescue nearly 7,000 over the weekend, but sadly, they recovered many who just didn't make it. John, Australia's Prime Minister says some European countries have been asking his government about the program, which aims to stop migrants from reaching Australia's shores.
Obviously, we see J.D. Hayworth here with us, so we'll go ahead and just kick off our conversation. We'll get to that story coming up a little bit. Tony Abbott weighing in on that situation.
Well, it does show the problems of immigration worldwide, illegal immigration, and a lot of European nations failed to deal with it now, as we failed to deal with it in the United States. Tony Abbott, a conservative Prime Minister of Australia, obviously taking a more assertive action down under.
Yes, and we will talk about immigration as one of the issues, of course, that will impact 2016, JD, but I want to talk specifically about new personalities in the race, Ben Carson being one of them, Carly Fiorina being the other one. Ben Carson talking about his experience, not in the political realm, but his personal experience today and his professional experience as a leader, not only in medicine, but in other areas as well. What do you think about Carson's announcement today?
Well, I think you are seeing in Dr. Ben Carson, arguably a political reincarnation of someone like Dwight David Eisenhower. Ike continually said in the 1950s, now look, I'm not a politician, dismissing all the considerable political experience he had as a military man. By that I mean understanding how power worked, even though at that point in time the tradition was for generals and those who made a career of the military not to vote. Ike would always say he was not a politician. Obviously, Ben Carson is not a military leader, but he was a medical luminary. And the saying colloquially that it ain't brain surgery, well, Dr. Carson, as the chief of pediatric neurology at Johns Hopkins, obviously is a man of great academic accomplishment, great medical accomplishment, and his story from inner city to welfare to success is one that certainly has people stopping and looking at him.
What do you think will work for him and against him?
Well, the inexperience politically, and it's not a rap against him to talk about that kind of inexperience in terms of the pacing of a campaign. And yet Dr. Carson believes he can take that and turn it into a positive, saying, look, what you see is what you get. I'm not someone handled by consultants. I'm an honest man and an honest broker here to do a job that America needs done, and it's time to break the mold of traditional politicians.
We want to talk now about another possible candidate, Governor Mike Huckabee. He's set to announce tomorrow that he may run. On Friday, the governor released a new pre-campaign video. Let's take a look at that one and get your reaction.
There's a difference between right and wrong. There's a difference between good and evil. I'll keep all the options on the table in order to defeat the evil forces of radical Islam.
Now, JD, you just saw an ad, and for our viewers at home, some of the critics of this ad have been talking about how the footage of the ISIS propaganda video wasn't probably misused, probably not the best use of it. Your thoughts on it?
I think that making clear the clear and present danger we face as Americans is something, quite frankly, more candidates should do. Let's remember, the first role of any president of the United States is to protect the American people.
So you think it was wise for him to use this?
Well, let's understand this. The criticism that is predictable and funded by the billionaires on the left is unremitting for all the candidates. But I think that criticizing Huckabee for pointing that out is, I don't think it's going to hold. And I think Huckabee depends on what Dick Nixon used to call the silent majority. I think you're going to see people who are fed up with these radical changes to social policies. And again, Huckabee can run on his experience, having been a chief executive.
Speaking of experience, let's not forget about how well he does in Iowa, which of course is the first political contest that we're going to see. He does well in Iowa, could totally change the landscape of all this. And we got much more, obviously, to talk about when it comes to 2016, JD, so we're going to ask you to stick around for just a few more moments.
Very happy to, because we can't forget the lady in the race now, Carly Fiorina.
We definitely want to talk. We saved the best for last, I guess, in this discussion.
Cool.
Anyway, when it comes to Carly Fiorina, we didn't want to leave her out as well. We got much more to come here on Newsmax Now. Coming up, JD is going to hang around a bit longer. Plus, we're talking about some other main headlines today, including the latest from the Boston Marathon bombing trial, why there was a little bit of emotion from the accused bomber, or I guess the bomber, the convicted bomber in that trial during the penalty phase.
Right, and I want to ask you about governors versus first-time senators.
Oh, that's an easy question, even for a guy who once ran for the U.S. Senate.
All right,
gonna
much
get
more
the
to come
answer
here. We'll
coming
be
up.
right back after this.